Hey there, this is Rousseau with the ITONICS Academy, and in this course, we'll explore how you can accelerate innovation through venture clienting. I'll provide answers to 4 questions. What are the benefits of venture clienting? How do you get started with venture clienting? What's the right way to scout for startup partners? How to scale the venture clienting model. By the end of this course, you'll understand how leading companies like BMW, PepsiCo, and Bosch use venture clienting to integrate innovative startup solutions, and how you can do the same. Let's get started. Let's begin with the basics. What exactly is venture clienting? Venture clienting is a way for corporates and startups to collaborate. Instead of investing in the startup by buying equity like a venture capitalist, your company works with the startup as an early paying customer. The startup benefits from this relationship by getting valuable feedback and revenue. Startups typically get to retain ownership of their intellectual property and are not obligated to enter into exclusive supply agreements with the corporate partner. The benefit of venture clienting to your company is that you get access to external innovation with fewer risks and less red tape. The startup can stay small, fast, and innovative, and the larger company benefits from this agility. This model is already being used by some of the world's most forward-thinking companies. Let's take a look at some examples. BMW established the world's first venture client unit in 2016, the BMW Startup Garage. They select young tech companies whose innovations could solve challenges for BMW and pay them to pilot their solutions inside BMW's business units. The startups get market access and feedback, while BMW gets early access to breakthrough technology. BMW assesses thousands of startups using this model, with 30 startups completing the BMW Startup Garage program each year. Next up, we have Bosch and its venture client unit, Open Bosch. This unit uses an open innovation platform powered by ITONICS to collect submissions from startups, universities, and other external experts. With over 1,000 submissions managed through ITONICS, the platform helps Bosch evaluate startup solutions and set up partnerships with them. PepsiCo also runs dedicated calls for startup submissions. It partners with innovative tech startups to develop and scale solutions that address the company's key business needs across beverages and snack foods. Like Bosch, PepsiCo has a portal for open submissions, where startups can submit solutions to evergreen challenges, such as sugar and salt reduction technology. Another example comes from DB Schenker, the logistics giant, which uses venture clienting to tap into technologies that can improve warehouse automation and real-time tracking. Rather than go through a long procurement process, this approach fast-tracks startup pilots that can improve the company's operations. DB Schenker uses ITONICS as its innovation operating system, centralizing ideas, insights, and pain points in one collaborative space for external startups and internal stakeholders. This increased the speed of managing startup partnerships from initial touchpoint to scaling by 25% for the venture clienting team. The venture clienting model offers these companies a fast, low-risk way to bring in external innovation without needing to invest equity or acquire startups. It's also beneficial for the larger company's corporate culture. Collaborating with startups introduces fresh perspectives from emerging talent, new capabilities they don't yet have in-house, and can foster a more entrepreneurial mindset within the organization. From the startup's perspective, they benefit by accessing the corporate's resources, expertise, and industry networks. They can test and validate their solutions in big factories and real business environments with established customer bases, accelerating the path to market. It sounds good, right? So, how do you actually get started with venture clienting? The first step is not just jumping straight into scouting for startups. First, get your house in order. Understand what you want to achieve. Venture clienting needs to be aligned with your business goals and solve real problems for your company or customers. Here are 6 foundational steps to build venture clienting capability at your company. Step 1, define your goals. Start by asking, why do we want to work with startups in the first place? Is it to solve immediate challenges, access new technologies, explore new business models, or strengthen your competitive edge? Being clear on your goals ensures that venture clienting efforts are aligned with your company's strategy and don't just become innovation theater. Step 2, identify opportunity spaces. Next, look at your company's current operations and identify areas where innovation could bring significant benefits. We call these opportunity spaces. So, scan your organization for pain points, inefficiencies, or future-facing needs. Venture clienting works best when it's driven by real business challenges, not tech trends. Talk to different departments and ask them, what challenges are you struggling to solve internally? What processes could be faster, cheaper, or more automated? Where have previous solutions fallen short? You're not looking for vague innovation goals. You're looking for specific pain points and a need for external help. Step 3, research the startup ecosystem. Now that you know what you're solving, you can start looking outward by mapping the startup ecosystem in your industry. You want to find out which startups are active in your space, what are the relevant startup events and other networking opportunities, where are the hotspots of innovation in terms of geography, what accelerators, incubators, or VCs are involved. You could also use online platforms such as LinkedIn or Crunchbase to find startups that match your criteria. This research helps you understand who could be potential startup partners and how competitive it is to work with them. Step 4, define your evaluation criteria. Not every impressive startup is a good fit. So before reaching out, define your criteria. Do you prioritize product maturity or team experience? Do you want startups with a proven customer base or early stage tech with high market potential? What's your risk appetite? We recommend you work with colleagues from relevant departments to agree on the criteria you'll use to evaluate startups. Step 5, establish a venture client unit. Depending on your company size, you may want to formalize venture clienting into a dedicated team or role. This unit will coordinate between internal stakeholders like R&D, procurement, legal, and external startups. You don't need a large team, but you do need someone to be the clear owner. This ensures someone is responsible for maintaining momentum in identifying potential startups, screening them, and managing the relationship over time. Step 6, develop a clear value proposition. In the same way that you're choosing startups, startups are also choosing you. So what's your pitch? Why should a promising startup work with your organization? It's good to define what you offer. Is it early stage revenue, formal feedback, access to expertise, access to markets, your reputation? How quickly can you move? What's the timeline for pilots? What does your procurement process entail? And then, what does success look like for both sides? This value proposition helps establish transparency and trust so you can attract the right kind of startups and not waste each other's time. So to recap, getting started with venture clienting doesn't begin with scouting startups. It begins with internal clarity. Define your venture clienting goals, identify opportunity spaces, research the startup ecosystem, define your evaluation criteria, establish a venture client unit, and develop a clear value proposition. Only once this foundation is in place should you move into the startup scouting process, which we'll cover next. Once you've defined your internal challenges and laid the groundwork, it's time to look outward. This is where startup scouting begins, the process of identifying and evaluating startups that could become valuable partners. But without a clear process, scouting can become chaotic. Teams end up duplicating work and tracking startups in disconnected spreadsheets. Let's fix that. Here's how to run a structured scouting process. Step 1. Search early and widely. Don't wait for startups to knock on your door. Be proactive. You can use a mix of sources to discover relevant startups. Online databases like Crunchbase, Dealroom, or Traction. Conferences, accelerators, demo days, and pitch events. Industry newsletters and LinkedIn. University innovation hubs. Internal referrals from business units such as the R&D team. And of course, innovation platforms like ITONICS. You're not just looking for the star players. You're trying to find relevant emerging startups before your competitors do. Step 2. Create a single source of truth. Startup information shouldn't end up in scattered spreadsheets or forgotten emails. We recommend that you use a centralized system where relevant people in your organization can add, track, and evaluate startups. This just makes collaboration across the company much easier so that a broader group of colleagues can contribute. That way, startup scouting isn't limited to your team alone. For example, stakeholders across different business units can and should participate in the scouting process, collecting information about potential startup partners, evaluating fit, and flagging those relevant to their own business areas. This makes startup scouting a shared effort so that more departments feel they have a stake in venture clienting. ITONICS clients like Bosch already have this in place. They have one innovation platform to capture startup information, evaluate them, and track partnership progress. Structured templates for startup profiles ensure consistent information is collected, making it easier to compare startups. With the right system in place, everyone can contribute and nothing gets lost. Step 3. Define what good looks like. Once you've gathered information on an array of startups that could be potential partnerships, it's now time to evaluate them. Remember earlier when I recommended you work with colleagues from relevant departments to agree on evaluation criteria? It's now time to do a group activity, rating the startups using your chosen criteria. Each organization will have its own way of evaluating, and that's a good thing. But for illustrative purposes, at ITONICS, we recommend using these criteria. Strategic fit. How complementary are the startup's products or services to our business strategy? Degree of innovation. How innovative is their solution? Disruptive potential. Could this startup disrupt you or your competitor's business model? Professionality. How reliable and capable is the team behind the startup? Need for action. How urgent is it to engage with the startup now rather than later? By applying these criteria consistently, you create a transparent, comparable view of potential startup partners. This helps teams align on which startups are worth pursuing and builds a clear audit trail for how decisions were made. You might find 50 interesting startups, but only a few that truly match your needs for venture clienting. Prioritization is key. Step 4. Visualize the evaluated startups. Once your team has rated startups using the agreed criteria, it's time to visualize the results. Use a radar or matrix to plot the results of your scouting and evaluation process. These tools help you clearly communicate which startups were assessed, how they scored, and which ones stand out. A radar, for example, can show which startups have a high need for action and which business unit they're relevant to. A matrix could compare disruptive potential against strategic fit. These visuals are especially useful when sharing results with different departments and leadership. They help make the potential of venture clienting more concrete, showing how each startup could help solve a specific business challenge. And they support better decision-making by offering a comparative view, all based on the same evaluation criteria. A good visualization doesn't just summarize the work, it helps teams see the opportunity more clearly. Scouting helps you surface promising startups, but identifying potential partners is just the beginning. To turn these matches into real business value, you'll need to reach out and manage pilots. Next, we'll offer advice on structuring your startup collaborations, receiving external submissions, and scaling venture clienting in your organization. Okay, you've identified promising startups. Now the real work begins. Let's talk about how to scale the venture clienting model. Moving from evaluations to successful partnerships means building trust with startups, managing pilots, and shaping a venture clienting model that works for your organization. Let me share 4 recommended ways to scale up venture clienting at your organization. 1. Approach startups with a clear value proposition. Promising startups may receive many inbound messages from companies, so your initial contact should be specific and relevant. Explain what challenges you want to find solutions to and what kind of collaboration you're offering. Be straightforward about what your organization brings to the table beyond money, such as credibility, test environments, or customer access. Think of it as a two-way pitch. You're not just choosing the startup, you're giving them a reason to choose you. 2. Process startups with a structured workflow. Managing startup relationships is easier when you have a defined sequence for them to go through. Use a workflow with stages to track each startup's progress from evaluation to first contact to pilot to finally making a decision about scaling or stopping the partnership. A workflow like this gives your team visibility into the status of each startup relationship and makes next steps clear. It becomes essential when you start dealing with dozens of startup proposals to track and make informed decisions about. 3. Attract startups through open innovation. Some organizations go a step further by inviting startups to come to them through open innovation calls. This approach involves publishing clearly defined business challenges on a public page and encouraging startups to submit solutions. It helps you tap into a wider pool of startups and technologies than internal scouting alone can reach. Bosch's open innovation partnerships is a good example. They use an open portal to collect submissions from startups and other external experts, then process the submissions through a structured workflow to move the most promising proposals into paid pilots. But keep in mind, open innovation works best when your internal coordination for venture clienting is already in place and working well. You don't want your team to be overwhelmed by the volume of submissions and unable to act upon promising proposals. 4. Adopt a portfolio perspective. Don't aim for perfection out of the gate. Start with 1 or 2 high priority pilots and improve as you go. What matters is that you learn quickly and adapt. Then, as you can demonstrate results and get more internal buy-in, take a portfolio view of your startup partnerships. This involves getting oversight of which departments are engaging with which startups, where resources are being allocated, which pilots are progressing and which should be paused or stopped, how startup partnerships align with your long-term innovation strategy, and if there are any gaps in your portfolio. Germany's second largest financial institution, DZ Bank, uses a fintech radar for exactly this purpose, giving them visibility of the startup landscape and helping them identify gaps in their own innovation portfolio. For more in-depth insights and best practice in portfolio management, check out our Academy Essentials course on this topic. So, over time, you can formalize venture clienting as a larger dedicated unit in your organization. That's what organizations like BMW, Bosch, and DB Schenker have done, benefiting from venture clienting at scale. Before we wrap up, let me just highlight how the ITONICS Innovation OS makes venture clienting easier. With our Insights tool, you can scout for startups with AI-enabled searches and even automatically generate a preliminary startup radar, defining your research area to a particular industry or technology. ITONICS also lets you link startups to trends and emerging tech on one collaborative, organized platform. This can provide your colleagues with essential market context to evaluate and act with confidence. Want to receive proposals from startups? ITONICS Open Innovation features makes that possible. Publish your most pressing challenges as an open call on a public portal and invite startups and universities to pitch their ideas. This is how Bosch is using ITONICS as an open innovation platform to receive and process more than 1,000 submissions. With custom workflows on the ITONICS platform, you can manage numerous startup relationships through initial discovery to selection to partnership pilot to rollout. Using phase gates, you can track progress, assign ownership, and systematically turn promising startups into paid partners that help your business grow. ITONICS also equips you to visualize your startup portfolio using radars, matrix views, or custom dashboards. If you want to see for yourself how ITONICS can support your venture clienting ambitions, we'd be happy to show you. just book a demo with one of our innovation experts. So, that concludes this course on venture clienting. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you found it useful and now see the steps you can take to apply venture clienting model to benefit your business. As you continue to build your innovation knowledge, we encourage you to explore our other academy courses, as well as all the resources available at ITONICS-innovation.com. See you next time.